And we're a goer. Welcome to the council meeting of Wyndham City Council this Tuesday, the 11th of August, 2020. This meeting is being undertaken in line with the COVID-19 Omnibus Emergency Measures Act 2020, which provides for council to meet and is deemed to be open to the public if the meeting is streamed live on the internet. In the spirit of reconciliation, before we begin this meeting, I acknowledge the peoples of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of the land on which Wyndham is being built, and we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. I will now proceed to read out the opening prayer and welcome. We pray for guidance in the council's decision making in order to achieve the best outcome for the people of Wyndham. I'd also like to welcome councillors and staff that are in attendance this evening. I also wish to note that staff, including the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, will be on audio only for the duration of the OCM due to the online limitations and making sure that all councillors are visible. Okay, over to item number 2, apologies and requests for leave. Madam CEO, do we have any apologies or requests for leave?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We do have one apology this evening, and that's from Councillor John Gibbons.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Madam CEO. We'll now move to item number 3, declaration by councillors of disclosure of any conflicts of interest or personal conflicting conflicts and any items on the agenda. Do I have any councillors? Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In the confidential agenda, item 13.1.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marcus. Okay, we'll now move to item number 4, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. That the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Tuesday, the 7th of July 2020, as prepared and circulated, be confirmed. Do I have a mover? Councillor Marcus. Councillor Maynard is the seconder. Okay, we'll now proceed to a vote. And I will now do a roll call of councillors in terms of that vote. Councillor Hooper.
Yes.
Which way are you voting?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, Councillor Khan.
Yeah, supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Ahn.
Yes, voting for it.
I am also voting in favour. Councillor Barlow.
Yes.
Councillor Villagonzalo.
Yes.
Councillor Shaw.
Yes.
Councillor Maynard.
For.
Councillor Marcus.
Voting in favour.
Thank you. Passed unanimously. Okay, we'll now move to the next item. Item number 5, deputations and presentations. There are nil. Item number 6, which is now the officers' report, 6.1. Madam CEO, I believe we have a petition this evening.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just for completeness, I do need to read the contents of the petition. It was received on the 5th of August 2020. It's a petition signed by 29 people addressed to the Mayor and Councillors of Wyndham City Council. The petition states the cyberbullying and harassment and intimidation occurring on local Wyndham Facebook groups in the name of council elections, and request to take steps to prevent this, while also educating and making aware the community members and the public of its consequences, repercussions and mental health effects that these acts can have on an individual at the receiving end, not to mention the legal implications of those involved and the mental health effects of the victims. Residents of Wyndham and other areas have regularly witnessed and or participated in such extreme cyberbullying occurring on the Wyndham's council and state elections Facebook group, a group whose description starts with the statement, "Who's who in the zoo?" Posts and comments in this group seem to interrogate and ridicule election candidates publicly. Foul language, often offensive remarks and name calling is widely practiced, allowed and visible in this group. The members of the public and stakeholders have the right to ask questions to their candidates. The problem here is the mob mentality conduct, language and derogatory tactics used to continuously mock the candidates. It appears that a certain section has been ganging up against other sections of the community. So, Mr Mayor, this petition calls on Wyndham City Council to take steps to prevent cyberbullying, harassment and deliberate attempts of public mockery of individuals occurring on local Wyndham-focused Facebook groups in the name of the Wyndham City Council elections. that council provide directives and public conduct awareness training to the admins and members of such Facebook groups that use the Wyndham Council and council elections, that council educate the admins and participants about cyberbullying, harassment and its legal implications, as well as the impact that these acts have on the mental health and mental state of individuals at the receiving end. So, Mr Mayor, again, just to clarify that we needed to read that out for completeness, given the way we're meeting tonight. So that was noted, and a report in response to this will be presented at the next meeting on the 18th of August 2020. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam CEO. We'll now move to the next item, 6.2, strategic reports, nil. 6.3, policy and advocacy, also nil. 6.4.
Mr Mayor, point of order, can we have a mover for the petition to be noted?
So, Councillor Khan, the petition is simply noted.
You need a mover or you not need a mover?
No, that we don't need a mover. Thank you. 6.4.1, the planning scheme amendment, C228, 315 Boardwalk Boulevard, Point Cook. The report is on pages 8 to 14. The recommendation is on page 8, with the attachments on page 15 to 68. Do I have a mover for the item, please? Councillor Khan. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Arndt. Councillor Khan, do you wish to speak to the item?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Look, thank you very
minutes.
much giving opportunity, Mr Mayor, on this item. I have seen the site is in a Point Cook and consists with a planning scheme. And if you look at the report, has been done great with council officers. And this matter has been started since 2018, and the council resolved this matter. Now, Mr Mayor, is a planning scheme under the farming rezoning zone 1 to the residential growth zone 1, which is this area is very close to the public transport and others such as town centres, shopping centres, schools. So, Mr Mayor, I think is, in my view, this changing a zoning from farming to residential zone 1 would not have a problem. However, though, the request has been also is going to be saying that it's going to be used for a residential purpose, which is great. It's not going to be industrial or anything else here, Mr Mayor. Now, other thing is, it's also going to apply on this zoning when we're changing farming zone 1 to residential zone 1. It's going to have some overlays, which is consistent with the Wyndham Planning local scheme, which is Wyndham Planning scheme. However, though, Mr Mayor, I think council have done a great job looking at when you're changing farming zone to the residential growth zone, you need to consider about the DCPs. Now, as I'm aware of that now, that section 173 has been signed with the both parties, or you get executed one outcome of deliver this approval, and the DCPs will be collected $4.1 million, Mr Mayor, and 1.4 million will be allocated as per the agreement states on 173. Now, the good thing to see that, Mr Mayor, now council is just not rezoning the farming zone to residential zone. It's also actually requesting that once the rezone is going to be happen, about 0.75 hectares of public open space will be needed. So that will be transferred to the council. So it's just not a developer will get the land and is get rezoning for farming to the residential zoning. Council have taken all precautions in order to assess this application. And I see, Mr Mayor, that during the discussions when we're changing from farming zone to residential zone, there has been some request or views about that whether there's an opportunity for a community laser centre or a swimming pool for the Point Cook, because it's a Point Cook people, Mr Mayor, I believe they needed indoor laser and a swimming pool. So now, since we're discussing this thing, even though the council has said that as per 173 has been required to 0.75 hectares, I'm not here the planning officer, but I would love to see that whether the Point Cook community can have whether it is a privately allocated or part of this process will be allocated for the community a swimming pool or indoor centre, which is still be aligned with the scheme what we're trying to do. So I would say, Mr Mayor, look, this is a process. We when we're changing from farming zone to residential zone. It's not a planning application yet, so the planning application will be dealt separately once that get approved by minister. So council is just doing the job, and you go to the minister. Minister will agree or disagree on it, and then the Howards own the land back then, and they have to apply for it, and then will be dealt with when the municipal strategic planning, MMS, and also all the core of the planning and environmental act. So, Mr. Mayor, I think is comply with the what do we call that, with the Wyndham 2040 vision, because it's important to have that a big parcel. It can cater the number of the housing for the older people or the young generation.
Got a minute.
So doing this is, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think it's a great way of assessing application and treating on a merit basis. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. I'll now ask Councillor Ahn as the seconder. Do you wish to speak? But before I do that, sorry, Councillor Marcus, can I just ask you to adjust the lighting that you have in your room? I apologise about this. I've just noticed the lights are a bit bright. Councillor Marcus? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Ahn, do you have, are you wishing to speak?
So just thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very quickly, briefly. So as this stated very clearly that we engage with the independent planning panel, and that the panel released the report, and they recommend that the amendment be adopted. So I also agree with the officer's recommendation. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ahn. Are there any other speakers? If there are, please raise your hand. Councillor Hooper, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's not going to be that long. I'm actually speaking against this plan tonight. I look at the eastern side of the plan in particular, and most people in the community are expecting this to become residential. In fact, the report even touches on that. However, the actual road design, if most people saw that Bliss Street didn't come in and connect to Ironwood Drive, if they didn't see the yellow box connected directly to Terrace, Terrace, they'll be looking at it and go, well, why is this strange road network being created that's just not going to make traffic flow? Now, the report does touch on traffic flows outside of it, but I'm just looking at the design and thinking, from a traffic flow usability point of view, here's an opportunity to connect some streets that have been long disconnected, and we're just making it almost a rat run. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hooper. Councillor Marcus, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I've had to turn my light out, so I'm not going to be much use to you tonight.
I know you're very clear. You're sorry, I'll interrupt to tell you it looks much better.
But I can't read a thing. Now, the subject, I'm a bit disappointed in this development. The subject land is 15.12 hectares in size, and the proposed open space is only 0.75 hectares. Now, we run into trouble all the time if they then are able to build apartments and everything on that space out of 15, I think I'm looking 15, is not a lot. And I think this is something council will need to look at in the future. We're wanting high-rise apartments and everything. We have to make sure we put in place proper open space. Now, this says open space, so that may not include swimming pools or anything else. If open space is open space, so then there would have to be another planning amendment put in there. But I will support it, but I think this is something that council officers need to look at in the future, that we need more open space in these developments, especially if we're going high rise. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Marcus. Okay, there are no other speakers now. What I will do is I'll proceed to a vote. And with that in mind, I will now ask each councillor to advise whether they are for or against the resolution. Councillor Hooper.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Khan.
Mr. Mayor, I was trying to exercise my right to reply, but you sort of didn't give me an opportunity.
Okay, fair enough. Good point. Do you wish to exercise it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think there has been a clear process regarding this application, and I disagree with my fellow councillor Tony Hooper saying that the traffic will create a road is things. Well, I think we're debating on rezoning a farming. The land is classified as a farming zone, rezoning to the residential growth zone, and it meets the old requirement. If you read the report, Mr. Mayor, I disagree with my fellow councillor saying that it would not going to support that traffic. It does reflect that it meets the old requirement regarding the roads and things like that. In a wider context, I agree with Mr. Tony Hooper saying that yes, but this is what we're trying to do here. We're changing the farming zone to residential zone, and then planning application will come in near future. Whoever is going to hold the land. So I would like to just simply say that it meets the requirement of 173 agreement. It meets the local Wyndham Planning Act scheme, and every single item's been. I think it's a very good report to be, Mr. Mayor. So I would be requesting every single councillor to follow the report officer's recommendation, because that's a people expert, and I think we just follow the guideline. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. Now we will proceed to a vote. I assume, Councillor Hooper, that Councillor Khan's right of reply hasn't changed your position.
That's a very safe assumption.
Thank you. Councillor Khan, are you for or against?
I'm for. I'm supporting it, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you. Councillor Arn?
For it.
Thank you. I'm also for it. Councillor Barlow?
For it.
Thank you. Councillor Councillor Villagonzalo?
For it.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw?
For.
And Councillor Maynard?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus?
I'm voting in favour.
Thank you. Okay, it's therefore passed. Thank you. Okay, we're now moving to 6.5 other reports. 6.5
point of division. Point of division.
Okay, well, Councillor Khan, I'll simply say to you that I am satisfied that a division will occur on each and every vote, so you got your division. 6.5.1, women's participation in sport and active recreation in Melbourne's West, an active plan for change. The report is on pages 69 to 73, the recommendation on page 70, the attachments on 74 to 115. Do I have a mover for this item, please? Councillor Maynard, Councillor Hooper. Councillor Maynard, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be shorter than that, though. Thank you for the opportunity. Certainly, I've spoken before about the great benefit that community sporting clubs offer individuals, and that their purpose isn't about developing better athletes, it's about developing better people. It's great to see that the local governments across the West collaborate to ensure that women and girls don't miss out on this opportunity. There is strong momentum in this space already. For example, in the last 3 years, we have seen the number of women and girls in AFL teams in Wyndham grow from 4 to 21. And we know that some clubs such as hockey, swimming and athletics have been leading the way for a long period of time. The action plan has been broadly circulated and feedback on the most part has been positive. And I'd like to thank everyone for their contribution. Certainly, Wyndham will use this guide to build on our current momentum and continue to grow opportunities for women and girls to be active. I would also like to acknowledge Wyndham's efforts in leading this piece of work and look forward to celebrating the completion of it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maynard. Councillor Hooper, do you wish to speak to the item?
Yeah, just briefly. Look, I think this is a good opportunity to look at mental health issues in our community right now. The sports clubs of our community have got a key role to play in that. I've seen time and time again through programs like SALT, where they've been able to keep youth engaged, even long distance, like we are right now. It is a trying time. A lot of kids are struggling through school. And so let's take this as an opportunity not just to address an awesome win with our participation with female in sport, but also broadly the mental health of our kids in our community too. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hooper. As there are no other speakers, I will now proceed to a vote. All those, Councillor Hooper.
Supportive.
Thank you. Councillor Khan? I can't hear
Supportive.
you. Thank you. Councillor Arn?
Yes, voting for it.
Thank you. I am too. That is voting in favour. Councillor Barlow?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Villagonzalo?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw?
For.
Councillor Maynard is
For.
thank you. Councillor Marcus?
Vote in favour.
Favour? Yep. Okay, thank you very much. That item has passed. We'll now move to the next item, 6.5.2, the Assembly of Councillors. The report and its recommendation is on 116. The attachment is on 117 to 118. A mover, Councillor Khan, and then Councillor Maynard. Do you wish to speak to the item, Councillor Khan? No, thank you. Councillor Maynard, do you?
No, Mr. Mayor, self-explanatory. We're all assembled.
Therefore, there are no one else. I'll now proceed to a vote. Councillor Hooper?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Khan?
No. For.
Thank you. Councillor Arn?
Yes, for it.
I am also in favour. Councillor Barlow?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Villagonzalo?
For.
Councillor Shaw?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Maynard?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus?
I'm voting in favour.
Thank you. Okay, that passes as well. Item number 7, notice of motion. 7.1, notice of motion 593, online cyberbullying registry. The report is on 119. The recommendation is 119. Councillor Khan, in accordance with the notice of motion, I will ask you to read out the provisions, so what you are proposing, so in other words, the item, and then your 5 minutes will begin at that point once we get a seconder. So please advise your notice of motion.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Giving me opportunity now. Take the note, the council meeting be held on 11th of August 2020. It is my intention to move to the following motion, that the Wyndham City Council writes a letter to the federal government and Victorian state government to consider the online cyberbullying registry. Part 2, Wyndham City Council run anti-cyberbullying awareness online program to reduce Wyndham residents and wider community.
Okay, thank you. Now just wait. Councillor Khan, is there a seconder for the item?
Seconder.
Okay, Councillor Villagonzalo. All right, Councillor Khan, you have 5 minutes to speak on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, cyberbullying is a national pandemic is on its own right, in particularly during the COVID-19, the lockdown, along with the increase of the online activity, including particulars in social media platforms such as Facebook. Wyndham community Facebook pages and groups are resulted in a spike in cyberbullying activities. This has impacted both nationally and locally in the city of Wyndham. Victims are from the background. However, we acknowledge that in the context of Australian multicultural persons of a migrant background have been harassed, abused, and victimized by these senseless, ignorant, and racist bullies have similarly contested in the multicultural Wyndham society. Accordingly, the Wyndham City Council should write a letter to the federal government and Victorian state government to adopt or create the national or a state cyberbullying registry to save our young upcoming future generations from such harm that has and continues to result in a depression, anxiety, and suicide. As a leader of the great city of Wyndham, we should not hesitate to confront these bullies and make it well known our council is aware of such behavior, which is unacceptable in any way, shape, or form, and will continue to challenge such bullies by seeking help from both the federal and state government and making them aware of these serious issues, which creates a disharmony amongst the communities and individuals and must be addressed very strongly. And during the COVID-19, the period of the digital era, such the program and awareness program campaigns should be conducted and delivered free of the cost online to the benefit to the wider community. Mr. Mayor, I also like to quickly touch base. That cyberbullying or online cyberbullying is bullying that done by one means of the technology, for example, using internet or a mobile phone, or a hurt, harassment, and embarrasses obviously the people. If you're experiencing cyberbullying in Australia, you are not alone. Unfortunately, up in 1 in 5 young Australians have reportedly been cyberbullied. So this is not something we're talking about. I'm glad that Mr. Mayor, as we all of us discussing about it and how serious the issue is. Mr. Mayor, I also like to tell it that when bullying happens, when a person or a group of people repeatedly and intentionally use words or actions to causes distress and harm to another person's well-being, it is the same as normal conflict between the people, such as having an argument or a fight, or simply disliking someone. It is more about repeated behavior by someone who has power or control over someone else. Mr. Mayor, cyberbullying is a serious issue, and sometimes I see that now, intentionally, unintentionally, some of the elected members get involved, and I'm not saying that this is a good behavior, but however, it must be noted that now that a lot of people saying that 2 councillors have been involved, and that is not confirmed who is, but absolutely, this kind of behavior is not acceptable. Now, petition we have noted today, it did say that how community has been harassed, and I request, Mr. Mayor, this behavior should be condemned and should not be supported. If any member of elected council or a member of parliament or federal parliament being a member of the Facebook page, it should be.
Councillor Khan, just 2 seconds. I'm pausing your time. Councillor Maynard, what is your point?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Mayor. I would seek clarification in the point of order. I believe that it's Councillor Khan is not speaking to his notice of motion, but I didn't quite hear the commentary. Was it couple of councillors or councils?
So,
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Hang on, Councillor Khan.
Mr. Mayor.
So the point of order really, it's seeking a clarification. I'll invite it. Councillor Khan, were you referring to 2 councillors or 2 councils?
No, 2 councillors, Mr. Mayor, not a council.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Are you happy with that, Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Khan, I will now allow you to continue. You have 1 minute and 4 seconds remaining. You can now commence again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think, Mr. Mayor, I'm glad that now my fellow councillors are excited about it, discussing about it, how important this issue is, whether it's happening in a workplace or happening in society, in a community, Mr. Mayor. This is behaviour cannot be tolerated. Now, Mr. Mayor, we take a pride to talk about community well-being and multiculturalism. I think we should encourage those people who've been ignorant, who've been engaged in this behaviour, and should invite and respect each other and ask them to go and do online training. Mr. Mayor, this serious offences has been not tolerated by any local government or state or federal government. So I request now that as a local government, you take responsibility and request, as a notice of motion suggested, to do something about it. Even though, Mr. Mayor, there is a Victorian Parliament made a committee and talking about this social and media behaviour on social pages regarding the elections issues, but also though in widely. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm glad that Victorian government is also discussing about it.
Thank you. Time's now elapsed. Thanks very much for that, Councillor Khan. Okay, just so I'm clear for all future speakers, if you can indicate for or against, so I'm aware in terms of whether Councillor Khan will get a right of reply. I'll deal with the seconder first, and then I will allow Councillor Barlow after that point. Councillor Villa-Gonzalo, do you wish to speak to seconding this motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
3 minutes, thanks.
I have been a resident of Wyndham for 32 years and active in the community for most of those years. In 2009, I organized the Migrant Hub to encourage and support migrants to integrate better into Australian society and become more active citizens. For more than 20 years, I was a full-time volunteer representing the migrant and Wyndham community in many organizations, including the Victorian Multicultural Commission, the Ministerial Council for Volunteers and the Culturally and Linguistically Diverse Committee of the Victorian Electoral Commission. In 2005, I was named Wyndham Citizen of the Year, the only recently arrived migrant to receive that honor. I felt then that I was integrated and felt valued as a citizen of Wyndham. And if I can contribute to Wyndham, many other migrants can do it also. And someday soon, other migrants will be recognized as well. Council and the Wyndham community have gone a long way in integrating newly arrived migrants like me. We have been leading and have become models for other councils to follow in terms of promoting social inclusion and active citizenship. Fellow councillors, these successes are being undermined by a small but very active gang of bullies in our community. They are targeting mainly migrants, telling lies about them, deliberately misinterpreting what they say, and encouraging other residents to attack them by posting their email addresses, mobile phone numbers, telling them to get out of Wyndham, questioning their qualifications in a derogatory and insulting manner, subjecting them to public shame. I should know. I have been a victim of this group. I have been accused of corruption and called a traitor to Wyndham without any factual basis. I was told to return my Citizen of the Year award, and current councillors have received emails and text messages from this group threatening some of us with an election loss if we do not vote the way they want us to vote. Those of you watching tonight who don't believe what I'm saying, read and watch what these bullies will post after tonight's meeting. I have left that Facebook group, that petition, the Facebook group that mentioned in the petition, because I don't speak their nasty language. I encourage migrants to start standing for elections, and those who, like me, have become victims to take screenshots of posted insulting words as evidence, then leave the Facebook page. Fellow councillors, I encourage you to support this motion and support social inclusion. Let us have that register and put an end to this toxic cyberbullying. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gonzalo. Councillor Barlow, you are next 3 minutes. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm obviously going to support this because bullying of any type, whether it be in the schools, at home, with the domestic violence that we have, whether it be, whether it be written, verbal, or in pictures and drawings, or whatever the case may be. And obviously, in this modern technology, all this great technology we have just gives people more opportunity to actually to bully people. And so, of course, any clear-minded, clear-thinking person would support this motion in that we need to look at the whole cyberbullying impact. What I feel a little uncomfortable about is that it seems to be, from what I've heard so far, it's about bullying by groups which haven't been named. Everybody seems to know who they are, but I don't. I'd like to know who they are. And so nothing's been mentioned of who these groups are or individuals. So I want to make it, it's not, as the cultural diversity portfolio holder, this is not just about cyberbullying being targeted to ethnic minority groups. It goes much further than that. There is massive problems with youth suicides around bullying. There's massive bullying going on where I recently I saw something on TV where it said a young schoolgirl committed suicide because of the constant bullying on her through social media and all of that. So this is far more than just about a racial issue. This is a worldwide and, of course, an Australian issue about bullying with that. And I must admit, as I say, of course, a very clear-minded person is going to support this motion. But it seemed to have been a very narrowed argument about it. Let's see how we can control it. I'll be very interested to see what the federal and state government have got to say, because this is not just about migrant minorities. This is about people and humans in general. And so I will be voting for the motion as put by Councillor Khan.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Hooper, you are next. 3 minutes.
I'm going to have to disagree with Henry there. I'm a clear-minded person, and as everyone there will know, I'm very much a big supporter of actions on mental health and bullying in general. But I'm looking at this and thinking this is something that should be advocated to the state government in a much more wiser fashion. What is a cyberbullying register, for example? Is it the types of bullying that schools have to deal with and strategies on how to deal with that? Or is it actually another form of bullying by taking someone who was a young kid and did some bullying, stupidly, ends up for life marked as a cyberbully? So I understand the intent of what you're trying to do here, Intaj. Maybe in your own reply you can actually elaborate a bit further. But for something of this nature, an online register of cyberbullying, what is it? Is it a sex offenders register, for example? So, I think if a dialogue to start off this process would be much more meaningful. Instead of a notice of motion, actually getting a dialogue happening with different stakeholders, state, federal and local leaders, and saying, what are we trying to achieve here? Are we trying to achieve a reduction in bullying? Then let's come up with some programs, school-based programs, because quite honestly, an online awareness program is going to have no impact at all on the people that you're trying to target. They're just going to ignore it. But if you actually want to have meaningful, systematic change, then getting a range of experts on board and developing from the ground floor an anti-bullying program that goes to our schools and workplaces and works with WorkSafe Victoria and other bodies that have already got systems in place to deal with bullying. Let's work with them and come up with a much more meaningful outcome than just this exercise tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Hooper. The next speaker is Councillor Shaw. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, look, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I tend to agree with Councillor Barlow. Of course, I would support this motion. No one would support, and cyberbullying is a very important issue, one that has been raised by state and federal governments, certainly over the last few years, as we've heard more about it. I am a little concerned. We've started to talk about social inclusion and cyberbullying, and that does concern me a little bit. I think this council has been very good around all of our initiatives and programs around social inclusion, and we seem to have sort of joined these two issues together. And I tend to agree again with Councillor Barlow that cyberbullying is much broader than some of the discussion that's taken place a little bit earlier. I think it's also important to point out that if you actually type in cyberbullying or go to any of some of the federal government pages and or the state government pages, there are already a number of programs in place that support cyberbullying, education in schools around these sorts of issues, etc. And whilst I do support writing a letter just to highlight these continued issues, certainly that happen not just in our community, that happen across many communities, I do think it's important that we do acknowledge that there is a lot of money, a lot of funding already going into these sorts of programs around communities. I'm happy to write the letter and support that. I suppose if we go forward in terms of what we need to do as a council, like we do with many other initiatives and programs, let's look at what's being delivered at a state and federal level first, see where the gaps are at a local level, and if we can actually work, within obviously as council officers and the community more broadly around how we might address some of the issues around cyberbullying. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, will be supporting this policy tonight, or this motion. as you all know, that I am an ambassador for Mental Health Foundation Australia. We have excellent programs. They're coming through thick and fast on how we can sit through these Zoom programs to confront this. Now, there's just one little thing in the last paragraph. As leaders of this great city of Wyndham, we should not hesitate to confront these bullies. I think they're not good words, because we cannot, without any experience, go out and confront these bullies. So that part of it, I think, needs to be rectified. There is no way people without training can go out and confront these bullies. I know my sister committed suicide, so it is very, very close to me. That is why I joined up with Mental Health Foundation, and we raised $41,000 with Dan Stars on the floor, and we have allocated that to organisations within this city to help and support. So, but I don't think we should have the words confront these bullies, because if you've got no experience, we cannot go out and confront these bullies. There are the trained people that must do it, and that's why we must look to those leaders to make sure that we're doing it in a right and proper way. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Marcus, for that. Councillor Ahn, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. I'll be brief. I just want to say I support this motion, and I agree with my fellow councillors that any form of bullying, including the cyberbullying, should not be tolerated in our community. And I want to see that this letter will lead to some more meaningful dialogues with the wider community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ahn. Councillor Khan, you have right of reply if you wish to exercise it. Do you wish to exercise it? Or are you prepared to vote?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll just exercise quickly.
Okay, 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I have to agree with my fellow Councillor Walter Valagazo, because what he has said that and experience, and I do also agree with the Henry Barlow in relation to saying that the group have been not have been named, so it's become difficult. But can I just say also agree with the Mia Shores saying that a number of initiatives running by state government and federal governments already online, and we know that now. But majority of people, including wider community, have a lot of stuff on online. But I think running a training and just enforcing it will really need a help. And again, running this free program to those people who are in a Wyndham, it will help them. I think naming those groups and all that, I think they were hearing now today to this platform, and I think this is a better way to inviting these people to come to the online training, or as Mia should have said, that there's online training, a free material there. They should go there and look at it. I would just like to say that, Mr. Mayor, under the Telecommunication Act is a crime if somebody misuses a career of Facebook, internet, all these mediums to harass other people. And I think as everybody have supported and said that, and I do agree with the Tony Hipper was saying it now, if we're trying to talk about it online registry, what is a school kids or is 18 plus and things like that, I think this is just the way of starting a dialogue, and there's a state government and federal government need to do furthermore. As a local government, we are responsive. We are reacting to those people who are doing these activities in our community. This was like to say that now we would not tolerate the cyberbullying at all. Say no to the cyberbullying, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Okay, we'll now proceed to a vote. I'll begin with Councillor Hooper.
This is driving me nuts. It's going to be against. I think it needs.
Point of order,
that's
Mr.
fine.
Mayor.
No point of order required, Councillor Khan. Okay, are you voting for or against Councillor Khan?
For it.
For, thank you. Councillor Ahn?
For it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, I am voting for it as well. Councillor Barlow? Assume that's for, yep. Councillor Villagonzalo?
For, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw?
For, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Maynard?
For.
Okay. Councillor Marcus?
I will vote in favour.
Thank you. Okay, the resolution has passed. We'll now move on to the next item. Item 8, Council Seal 8.1, the awarding of contract C2215/19, the Asphalt Road resurfacing. The report is on pages 120 to 123. The recommendation is on 120. Councillor Shaw is the mover. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Khan. Thank you. Councillor Shaw, do you wish to speak to this item?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Khan? Okay, there are no other speakers, therefore we'll proceed to a vote and I will read them out accordingly. Okay, here we go again. Councillor Hooper, for or against?
This one.
Sorry?
I'm for it.
Thank you. Councillor Khan?
For it.
Councillor Arn?
For it.
So am I. I'm for. Councillor Barlow?
For.
Villa Gonzalo?
For.
Councillor Shaw?
For.
Councillor Maynard?
For.
Councillor Marcus?
In favour.
Thank you. The resolution is passed. The next item is 8.2, the awarding of contract C2216/19, reconstruction of Charlotte Crescent and Honour Avenue, Wyndham Vale. Reports on 124 to 127. Recommendation 124. Councillor Shaw is the mover. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Maynard. Councillor Shaw, do you wish to speak to it?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Maynard.
No, Mr Mayor, self-explanatory.
Thank you. Councillor Khan, your hand is up. Are you speaking? No.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Well, okay, thank you. Okay, we'll now proceed to a vote. I'll now read out councillors. Councillor Hooper.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Khan.
Supporting it.
Councillor Arn.
For it.
And I'm also in favour. Councillor Barlow.
For.
Villa Gonzalo.
For it.
Councillor Shaw.
For.
Councillor Maynard.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus.
In favour.
Thank you. Resolution passed. 8.3, awarding of contract C2217/19, the reconstruction of Pandalas Boulevard, Atrium Drive, Berrimah Place and Bishop Close in Tarneet. The report is on 128 to 131. Recommendation 128. Councillor Shaw is the mover. Councillor Barlow is the seconder. Councillor Shaw, do you wish to speak?
No, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Barlow, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now proceed to a vote. Councillor Hooper.
For.
Councillor Khan.
For.
Councillor Arn.
For.
I'm also in favour. Councillor Barlow.
For.
Councillor Villa Gonzalo.
For.
Councillor Shaw.
For.
Councillor Marcus.
In favour.
Councillor Maynard.
For.
Thank you. Resolution passed. 8.4, the awarding of contract C2218/19, the reconstruction of Bethany Road, Tarneet and Woodville Park Drive in Hoppers Crossing. Reports on 132 to 135. Recommendation on 132. Councillor Barlow is the mover. Do I have a seconder for the item? Councillor Villa Gonzalo. Councillor Barlow, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor. It's self-explanatory.
Thank you. Councillor Villa Gonzalo, do you wish to speak?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Khan, your hand is in the up. So are you wishing to speak?
No, Mr. Mayor. I'm
Okay.
for it.
Great. Okay. We'll now proceed to a vote. And Councillor Hooper, are you? Yep. Thank you. Councillor Khan.
For.
Councillor Arn.
Yes, for it.
I'm also in favour. Councillor Barlow.
For.
Councillor Villa Gonzalo.
For it.
Councillor Shaw.
For.
Councillor Maynard.
For.
Councillor Marcus.
In favour.
Okay, that is now passed. All right, 8.5, the awarding of contract C2219/19, the reconstruction of Chesterfield Drive, Bloomsbury Place, Mayfair Street and Pembroke Lane in Wyndham Vale. The reports on 136 to 139, recommendation on 136. Councillor Khan is the mover. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Maynard. Councillor Khan, do you wish to speak to it?
No, Mr. Mayor. Self-explanatory.
Councillor Maynard, do you wish to speak to it?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. We'll now proceed to a vote. Councillor Hooper.
For.
Councillor Khan.
In favour.
Councillor Ahn.
For it.
I'm voting in favour too. Councillor Barlow.
For.
Councillor Villagonzalo.
For it.
For.
Councillor Maynard.
For.
Councillor Marcus.
In favour.
Thank you, everyone. That resolution has passed. We'll now move to the next item, which is item number 9, contract summary. It is nil. Item 10, questions with notice. Madam CEO, are there any questions?
Mayor, we do have a number of questions this evening. So firstly, I'll just read those out. So the first question comes from Hiren Ravel. So question 1, out of the 458 businesses that applied for the Win Local Business Recovery and Growth Program, how many of these were A, sole trader up to 4 employees, B, businesses with 5 to 14 employees, C, businesses with 15 to 50 employees, and D, industry incorporated associations? So, Mr Mayor, the response is as follows. There were 348 applications for sole traders up to 4 employees, 82 businesses with 5 to 14 employees, 24 businesses with 15 to 50 employees, and 4 industry incorporated associations. Moving on now to the following questions received from Arnev Sati. The first question is, why were all the small businesses in Wyndham not emailed by the council to inform them about the 1.5 million small business support program available under the Win Local Economic Support Package, especially when the council widely uses emails as a medium to communicate with businesses? So, Mr Mayor, the response there is that whilst all local councils maintain contact details of ratepayers, businesses are not obliged to provide such information to councils. So Wyndham Council makes every effort to maintain an up-to-date database of businesses through an existing MOU with the Australian Business Register. So, as I said, Mr Mayor, every endeavour is made to contact businesses, and we do have those who have given permission to be on that list. Question 2, how did council inform the 18 big businesses who received $360,000 funding under the Win Local Business Recovery and Growth Fund, especially when so much information was available on the council website, including Win Local Economic Support Package website? So that is true. We had a lot of information out there. The Win Local Business Recovery and Growth Program was promoted widely across numerous communication channels, including social media channels, the Wyndham Star Weekly and special editions of Council's newsletter, Business Matters in Wyndham. This communication was further supported by highly visible content on Council's website, including its homepage. All information on the Win Local Business Recovery and Growth Fund included an online application form, and terms and conditions were published on Council's website. No special communications were undertaken in respect to those businesses employing 15 people or more. So, Mr Mayor, that concludes our questions for this evening.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam CEO. We'll now move to item 11, Councillor Delegates Reports. 11.1, Councillor Delegates Reports. The reports are on pages 140 and 141. Recommendation on 141 with the attachments on 142 to 149. Councillor Ahn will move it. Councillor Hooper will second. Thank you. Okay, are there any councillors that wish to speak to the reports? I'll start with Councillor Ahn. Do you wish to speak? I'll just get you to unmute for me, please. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So I would like actually to speak on 2 reports. The first one is regarding the Smart City Portfolio Committee. As you know, our manager of Smart City Office, Dr. Adam Molan, have decided to take up an exciting new role with the state government. I feel fortunate to have worked with Adam from the start of this term. I'd like to acknowledge his great contribution in the award-winning works we have done in the past 4 years. The projects including Winlands, which won the 2017 National Award for Excellence in Local Government, as well as Wyndham's first ever Smart City strategy. I had a lot of good memories, and all of these were just like yesterday. I believe Adam have made a hard but good decision, and I sincerely wish him and his family all the best in the future. And I'm looking forward to working with Ben Sinnott. We have been working closely in the past 4 years, and I'm sure Ben will make great contributions in this acting capacity. The next report I'd like to speak on is the Audit and Risk Management Committee Delegate report on behalf of the committee. At the last meeting, the committee recommended the Audit and Risk Committee Charter to Council. This charter was adopted by Council last month. The committee was presented with external audit interim update in relation to Council's financial statements by our Virgo appointed external auditors. The timelines for the audit have been extended this year due to the COVID-19. The annual statement for the 1920 financial year will therefore now be considered by the committee at the next meeting. The committee will provide it with an update on Council's COVID-related emergency responses and governance structure put in place, the significant work undertaken by Council to support Wyndham's community, as well as health and safety considerations of Council staff were also noted. We have also considered other matters related to cybersecurity and long-term plan model at this meeting. That's all from me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hooper, do you wish to speak to the item?
Just briefly, look, I think one of the things that the arts, team at Council has done is really vitalise in this environment the art space online. The engagement and reach that we're getting in the community through the virtual tours, the ghost-like performances, and a range of actions has just been absolutely breathtaking. And I'm hoping that this is a necessity is the mother of invention moment, in that the online experiences becomes a ongoing thing post-COVID, where as a community, where a lot of community members are working in the city and having a hard time getting to our art experiences. So moving them to an online space, or have maybe co-inhabiting with the real world and online, gives them an opportunity to appreciate some of the art and performances such as comedy and song that is part and parcel of our arts community. So hopefully in the years to come, we're seeing some real positive come out of this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hooper. Okay, there being no other speakers, we'll now proceed to a vote on the item. Councillor Hooper, I'll start with you, please.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Khan?
4.
Thank you. Councillor Ahn?
4.
I'm also in favour. Councillor Barlow?
4.
Councillor Villa-Gonzalo?
4.
Councillor Shaw?
4.
Councillor Maynard?
4.
Councillor Marcus?
In favour.
Okay, the resolution has now passed. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to item 12, urgent business. There is nil. Item 13, confidential business. Councillors, can I have a mover to close the meeting to the public in order for council to consider confidential business? Councillor Maynard, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I move the following motion that pursuant to section 66(1) and 2A of the Local Government Act 2020, this meeting of council be closed to members of the public in order for council to discuss confidential business.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. Councillor Khan is the seconder. Excellent. I now intend to put this directly to a vote. We'll now go Councillor Hooper.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I need to leave the meeting.
Yes, I understand that. Yes. So I'm happy for you to leave now, noting you wish to leave now, Councillor Marcus, before we vote to go into confidential.
Well, as soon as that's done, then I will close out for the night. So good night to everyone.
Okay. Yes, no, understood. Thank you for acknowledging that to everyone online. I understand. Okay, we'll now proceed to a vote to confidential. Councillor Hooper?
4.
Thank you. Councillor Khan?
In favour.
Councillor Ahn?
4.
I'm also in favour. Councillor Barlow?
4.
Councillor Villa-Gonzalo?
In favour.
Councillor Shaw?
4.
Councillor Maynard?
4.
Councillor Marcus, do you wish to?
Yes, well, I'm in favour of going into confidential,
Okay,
but because I have a conflict of interest, I will now leave the meeting, and good night to everybody. Thank you.
Thanks very much,
Good night.
Councillor Marcus. Thanks for acknowledging that.
Yeah, hello.
Okay, the resolution is now passed, and I will wait for further advice in terms of when we are now in confidential. Thanks, everyone. Okay, can I get a mover for the meeting to be reopened to the public? Do I have a mover? Yes, Councillor Maynard, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I move that the recommendations of the closed meeting of council with regard to confidential business be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. Second to Councillor Rahn. I don't think we'll speak. Councillor Maynard, you don't wish to speak. Thank you, Councillor Rahn either. We'll proceed to a vote. All those in favour? And we'll, sorry, memory lapse. Hooper?
Yep.
Councillor Khan?
Oh,
Apologies, I got it wrong.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Rahn?
Yes, 4.
Thank you. I am in favour. Councillor Barlow was in favour. Councillor Villagonzalo?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw?
Support, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Maynard?
Mr Mayor, for completeness, I actually mucked that up. Do you want me to do it again, or are you happy to proceed?
I understood that you had reopened the meeting and that we are affirming the confidential business. I'm happy for you to reread it for completeness.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do apologise, councillors, but I read the last part first and the first part last, if you like. So, Mr Mayor, with your indulgence, I would like to move that standing orders be resumed.
Seconded.
We combine them. Okay, great. Councillor Khan, all those in favour? Councillor Hooper?
Supportive.
Councillor Khan?
In favour.
Councillor Rahn?
In favour.
Councillor, I am in favour. Councillor Barlow? Councillor Barlow?
yeah, 4. Yeah, sorry.
Councillor Villagonzalo?
I'm confused now.
We're resuming standing orders. Okay, Councillor Shaw?
4.
Councillor Maynard?
4.
Councillor Marcus? Councillor Marcus is not here. Okay, all completed. Now you can proceed to reread the other motion, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the recommendations of the closed meeting of council with regard to confidential matters be adopted, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Khan is in seconding that. Thank you. I assume now we'll speak to it. We'll get on with this. Councillor Hooper, are you for or against?
4.
Do you require clarification on what is being voted on?
No, it's on the recommendations of the closed minutes. So yes, 4.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councillor Khan?
4.
Okay, Councillor Rahn?
Yes, 4.
Okay, I'm also in favour. Councillor Barlow?
4.
Councillor Villagonzalo?
4.
Councillor Shaw?
4.
Councillor Maynard?
4.
Thank you. That is now passed. Item 14, we are closing at 8:15 p.m. Thank you for your attendance, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.